everything. In front of you are multiple colored files. The orange file is the work session, the first section of the work session. And that has the agenda and a couple of other items. And then the next two, the red and the green file, are also part of the work session. So if you want me to just continue on.
Just continue on.
Great, thanks. Everybody got their agendas on Friday, hopefully. And if we could this time, if there are any items that you have questions or comments or concerns or need any clarification, certainly please bring them up. If there are not any, we can move on because there's quite a bit of information in this work session as well as the regular agenda. So for any questions on the original agenda that everybody received on Friday?
I just have a question. Are we going to be going into executive session?
Yes, we will be. We'll be going into executive session, depending on how long this takes. We'll either start the meeting, the regular meeting, and do an executive session before we adjourn.
Okay.
Or if this goes quickly, we'll do an executive session before and then start the meeting thereafter.
Okay.
Well, why don't we do it like we usually do, when we read the whole agenda and you go through it like we normally do, like we would if we had a work session. This agenda, just go through it.
Okay, we can do that.
Well, that's what we're here for, it's a work session.
We can do that. Obviously, the minutes from two meetings are there. Treasurer's report, the general account, food service, approval of bills, accounting for taxes. There will be student recognition, two sections today, principals list and additional high school students. Recognition of the public, enrollment is 1,976. That's actually up 7 students from the last meeting. And the curriculum guide is there.
On enrollment, Mr. Superintendent, we're way down from 2,500 and change. I mean, over the years, we just keep up and on. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but we've been down to 2,000 for a long time, and we didn't think we'd ever get that far. So.
Yeah, and the likelihood of that continuing is probably very great because the graduating senior class going out of between 150 and 155 will continue all the way through until we get to the 7th grade level, and the new incoming classes have all been right around 100.
So that's where we catch back up again. Well, we don't catch up.
We'll continue to decline unless we get movement. More enrollees coming in at younger ages, most likely we'll continue to lose students up to, assuming that nothing changes, we might lose an additional 200 to 300 students over the next 5 years as well. Okay?
Yeah.
But yes, and that trend is everywhere in the northeastern Pocono region.
Yeah.
The Delaware Valley lost over 1,000 students, Wallenpaupack over 1,000, Pocono
Well,
Mountain.
I'm not really worried about what everybody else is doing. I know what we're doing here in Western Wayne, and it's dropped off
Well,
dramatically over the years. And I know we've done our thing in the budget's trying to with retirement to try not to replace that time. And it still's not stopping, so we're gonna have to take a look at something.
Right. Yeah, and it's a point well made. I just wanted to clarify that it's not unique to us. Everybody around us is in that same boat.
What can be the reason for that then?
Jobs, and
High taxes, people are
no,
still.
it's not taxation because people are still retiring to here, but they're not enrolling new students to here. New families are families that generally are working and working class, and the lack of jobs, and secondarily, the softness in the real estate market in 2007, 2008, especially from where the people who had been moving to our area were coming primarily from the North Jersey, suburban Philly, Connecticut area, and their real estate values dropped pretty dramatically, and people who had homes who were trying to sell them to be able to fund to move here hadn't been able to do that. Now it just started, and it usually starts south and east of us, that Pocono Mountain and DV, and to a much lesser degree Wallenpaupack, this year just had some new move-ins for the first time since 2007. But primarily two reasons: soft real estate market, but secondarily the job market. the job market, much more so, is the reason for that. But, and I appreciate your comments and concerns as well. The curriculum guide approval for the high school is attached. There is an agreement with Airlick, which is the same price as it has been for a number of years for pest control. The Affordable Care Act, which we have new regulatory requirements for reporting, there are 2 resolutions for that, and that goes into effect for 2016 as per the Affordable Care Act. There's an Act 48 agreement, which again has been in place at the same price for an extended period of time with the NEIU. There's a policy to adopt for Title I involvement, policy for parents, and that's a standard policy that needs to be adopted on an annual basis. There are a bunch of substitutes listed for approval to be on the sub-list. In addition to the 6 that are there, there is a 7th we got today, which is a special ed certification, Alyssa Piccoletti, and that one is pending clearances for special ed and elementary certification. So we will need to add that at the regular agenda. There's an appointment of a long-term sub. There is an appointment of a custodian for.
Just real quick on that long-term sub, has she been in there already?
Yes,
or is it
she's
just-
she's currently the teacher in that place, has been since the beginning of the school year.
Okay, great.
So we're trying not to disrupt the students. Yep,
What was the name of that, seven?
Alyssa Piccoletti.
Thank you.
That's pending clearance received.
Joe, quickly, I have
Yes.
2 things. More directly to Rose. The agreement with Ehrlich,
Yes.
do you see an increase with that, or is that?
That's the
steady
same
from last
price
year?
that we have this year.
Steady 57. The agreement with the IU, $10 per professional.
That's the same rate.
Is it the same rate?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't know if the rate was gonna change due to the financial stability of the IU right now.
Yeah, no,
I
they
didn't
have
know
not.
if they were gonna try to conjure up any money extra.
They did not
to
do
with that,
this.
with the way finance bill.
That's a good point.
Good point, but yeah, they have not.
Sorry, Joe, you were.
Oh, that's good, that's good.
dropping off the-
Custodian appointment, that is for somebody who resigned. It's not a new position, and that was in the middle school. Middle school had already received a cut of a custodian position last year as well, so that's a replacement of a second resignation. Spring coaches that were not approved at prior board meetings are there. 2 baseball coaches, which we had no baseball applications. There are still 2 slots open in the baseball program as well. The appointment of fall coaches,
Joe, I'm sorry, is that a father and son team or
brothers,
brothers? Okay.
brothers.
Just curious.
Both of them played baseball here. One coached at Keystone, and the other one played baseball here as well.
I know John was my son's little league coach for a number of years.
Yeah, I was just curious.
But they're
He's a
brothers.
volunteer assistant football coach as well this past season, so he has had interaction with high
I'm
school
just
students
curious.
already.
Yep, yep.
You know, I'm sure they are.
Yeah.
I have a question also on the ultimate frisbee. Is
Not down.
there a definite season laid out for him that he has to coach for certain periods?
There is. It's not a PIAA sanctioned
I
sport,
know
but
that,
it is
that's what I'm asking.
but it's similar to cheerleading. It's determined by the competition, and there is a competitive schooling, and there are clubs that are part of that competition as well. That was something that was adopted 2 contracts ago, and was added to the co-curricular schedule.
It was actually slid into the contract, ultimate frisbee we're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah, it was actually slid into the contract by the past superintendent. And then they worked it into the contract, so. I don't think the board ever voted on it to be part of the contract.
It's a memorandum of.
Yeah, it's a memorandum of understanding, which
And
there
it
was
was-
tons of them in there over the years when the previous administrator was there. And and they're still in there right now in the contract
I
agreement.
guess my biggest question is I see that he's making as much as the rest of the head coaches. So is he going to be required to put in the same amount of days?
The season's the same, is as long, and the number of practices are similar. Correct.
Thank you.
Appointment of the fall coaches, again, the fall coaching was put out as soon as the fall season was over, which is, I guess, new to the way we've done it in the past, for two reasons. Number one, it had a 12-day period for existing coaches to apply, and those that did had coaching staff, or the head coaches had program meetings with the high school principal, Terry Blum, and athletic director to go over the program, and many of them were appointed in the past at a much later date. In fact, last year, the fall coaches weren't appointed until May. We felt that it was important for people to be able to have their program, know what they have, and be able to work with the kids and their program for a much more extended period of time, to be more committed to it. And I think AJ made the comment a couple meetings ago about timing-wise that we need to make sure that we have the coaching staff knows that they're in place and that they can work with the kids, whether it be weight training or any other things along the way to improve the quality and the commitment to the program. So that's the reason for that. There are positions that were not reapplied for that we will have to deal with on an ongoing forward basis, but again, the plan is not to be waiting till May to appoint coaches for those positions that are not being filled tonight or in January.
George, just a quick question on that.
Mhm.
How are we assessing the success of these programs? Obviously, from what I can tell from what you just said, you had an exit interview with the coaching staff.
Yeah, Terry and Cindy did.
What then, due to the way the hiring policy is with our district, how are we assessing these coaches and how they put out the product on the court, on the field, or where have you? I think that's something that really needs to be stressed. And I commend in speaking with you and making sure that coaches understand that, the strides are made in the off season, not during the season. But at the same time, where we need to make improvements for our kids and the success of our student athletes, how are we going to do this? How are we going to do this to our?
And currently there's a scale that the principal and the AD use to score each coach. So they'll actually give them an evaluation, there's room for comments, so that they can go down and, if there's anything they need to address at that point, during that exit interview, that's when they sign off on that for each sport.
And that's the criteria that I think we as a board need to come to understand. Obviously it's not all about wins and losses,
Right.
but in some aspects it's about building a program, consistency and continuity, and that's what kids buy into in programs that are successful, because people play for the love, but winning is fun, and that's something that I want to make sure that we do here and we have success at Western. I just want to make sure that the proper pillars are in place to ensure that, because I think by not even knowing that there was a criteria, as you just explained to the public and to the board, I think that it's imperative that we are upfront in how we actually assess.
We actually put that in last year. I believe it was the first year we started that.
So it's new.
Yeah.
It's new.
But it was in place for
Last year.
the last year season, 14-15 school year as well. And part of the reason for adopting coaching as early as we are is to ensure that we have the coaches who are committed to the program for more than the season. We obviously didn't appoint all of the winter coaches until October. Well, if you weren't appointed till October and didn't know you were going to coach, or you weren't that committed to coaching, there's a good chance that in the spring and summer you didn't do anything with your program. Part of this, doing this as early as we are, gives everybody the opportunity to know I'm the coach. This is my program, and whatever we need from a weight training standpoint, whatever we need from conditioning, and organizationally with my assistants, putting in place the opportunity for people to be more committed than they have in the past, so that that the kids can achieve better.
Yeah, my only thought on that is, I just don't understand, I think that we might cross the streams of a message by posting every job. I think that's something that we might need to reassess, just due to the fact that with the correlation of this assessment, working with the administration and potentially the board, which I would advocate for, in some instances, is that we really get to work. When it comes to, you post all the jobs, but what kind of message does that send to every coach? You're posting a job, anyone can apply, and then we go behind closed doors. The hiring policy is the hiring policy, and the process is the process. But this is the truth. The board doesn't even know what the process is. How are the coaches going to know what the process is? And my point being is that I think we need to revamp this entire thing. We do. If we're confident in the way a program is going, it doesn't get posted. It doesn't have to be posted. We post jobs that we are looking to make successful. Programs that need attention, that need the attention span for our kids to be successful in that sport. And talking with you one-on-one, I love what you did. I love you want to get out there, you want to make sure they have an off-season in which they can put the work in to be successful. But there's just so many questions. I could ratchet off to 25 right now, just off the top of my head, from being a guy who grew up in athletics, who understands the nature and how athletics and how development is actually attained and achieved.
Mr. Cadenzi, in regards to some of your concerns, I've asked for committees for years here. You can have a couple board directors, 2 or 3 on a committee for sports. You can have a couple school directors on for buildings and grounds. A lot of school districts do it, and it works well. This way the board knows what's going on, and they're a part of what we're trying to do here at Western Wayne. So committees is a way to do it.
And I believe that it's something, being in a work session, that the 9 of us need to discuss. With 3, minus Jeff, because he's been with us for a little while, with 3 or 4 new school directors, I think it's important that everyone's reading out the same sheet of paper here. And they understand how we go about filling these positions, what our objective is, and how we're going to hire a coach, and how we're going to try to build a program for every entity, whether it be 7th, 8th, and even working with our feeder programs, like the Junior Wildcats and the basketball program, and the wrestling program, and all those that have those feeder programs. That's how we build programs. That's how we build success, and that's how kids are going to be successful in athletics. So it's just something that I would personally like to see. I'd like to see a more open approach to the hiring of our coaches that impact the lives of our student athletes.
I have one question, Joe. In regards to, I was in favor of you doing this way too, because it gives everybody the time and energy they need to get their program off the ground and running again as soon as the season is done. But I was just wondering, football is not on here.
Right.
And why is that being a fall sport not on
The football program is one of the programs that we didn't have the existing head coach, Donnie, reapply for.
Right.
And there were a couple other sports that were not reapplied for. This was the opportunity for the existing coaches, which I think is what AJ was trying to say there in an indirect way. If you're a coach and you're committed to your program, this is, I want to continue it.
Right.
So we're going to do the evaluation, have the discussion with Terry and Cindy, and then reappoint you. If there is an open position, and the head coach, I think it's very important for a head coach not only to be committed to the program, but have say in what the assistants, who the assistants are going to be. And so because we have an opening at the head position, we want to take the time, and again, don't forget last year we appointed in May. We want to take this.
It's been ridiculous the last couple of years.
We want to take.
And the staffing of it and everything else. And one other thing, I hate to interrupt you, but the fact is you have Shane Brodak as an assistant looking to be the head coach. And I believe there's 2 other names, but for the life of me, I don't know, and we sit on this board, and we don't even have any idea who's even applying, Joe.
Yeah. Well,
And it's not fair to us.
Well, we haven't even interviewed any of them yet.
Okay.
There are.
But you weren't gonna call us and let us know who they were anyway. Because that's the practice of this school.
If you let me
I'll let
get
you
to.
finish. Yeah, I'll let you finish. Go right ahead.
If you let me get to the executive
Go right
session
ahead. Go on.
that we're
Okay.
going to, that's
Okay.
when we're gonna discuss that.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think you
Well,
had
then you should
any.
have just said that in the beginning, that there's some things down here we need
Well,
to
there,
go.
there.
Well, that's fine. I'm fine. That's good. Don't.
That is one of the
No,
items
move on.
that we need to discuss.
Do it.
And,
Joe, I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but to piggyback off of what Mr. McDonough said, to not have a resignation on the agenda after it's in print in the Scranton Times, that our football coach is resigning, and we are not acting on it.
There is no resignation process.
There is news of a resignation. Was there a letter accepted?
There was, if you don't reapply,
Yeah.
you automatically have de facto resigned. And there is no board action required. That's why everybody, when it's put out there, that if you want to reapply, please do so. If you don't, then you've resigned de facto and there's no action necessary to be taken. That's why every position was posted in the first place. So, I mean, we'll do it. It doesn't matter to me. It's just, I don't wanna be in a situation where we have 15
The
resignations.
when the headlines read, there's a resignation of the coach. Okay? And now the public doesn't know that we have de facto resignations because we decided to go ahead and move forward a timeline to try and do appoint coaches. And then, obviously we can explain that, but we're explaining it after the fact.
Well, I mean, don't shoot the messenger here. It's been done this way for 30 years at Western Wayne.
That's the problem.
Okay. I mean,
That's the problem.
Don't
That's
get
the
alarmed.
For so
problem.
long, it's a terrible situation we sit here.
I'm here 4 months, and I think you've had more information disseminated to you in the last 4 months than you did in the last 4 years. So, and I do.
And before that, and I could add on a few more years after.
And I take it somewhat personally, that it's almost like attacking. It's like, look, this is what we've done for 30 years. And if we want to change it, tell me we want to change it, and we will.
It takes 5 to change things, Joe, so don't look at me or anybody else to say, we let it go this long, because I for one didn't.
All right, why don't we,
I'm fine with that.
okay,
Yeah,
let's
whatever you wanna
move
do.
forward, but
Whatever
we
you wanna do.
can discuss this in that executive session,
Great.
and after we hear what Joe has to say.
Yep, okay. There's a item F on page 4, there's a resignation of Beverly Sarah.
Question on that one real quick, do we have a substitute for that position, or are we filling that position?
In the sub-
That position has already been filled, because Beth did go,
Okay,
we hired that in August.
okay, just double checking.
Mhm.
Yeah. Then we have a bunch of volunteers, the schedule of future meetings, which again, we'll talk about in the work session, because I'm proposing a change to the way we do the work sessions, so that we have them and have more time for discussion for everybody, okay? And then there's a bunch of informational items, and then the standard reports at the end, okay? Any other questions or comments on the agenda? If we could go to the work session, item 2, there's an executive session, I should have put that number 1, to avoid some of that time that we just chewed up for personnel file, either prior to the board meeting if we have time, or before we adjourn the board meeting, and that will be contingent on how long it takes to do the work session. Work session dates, which is the next sheet in that orange file, and the board meeting dates are all there. They're on the agenda. The work session dates, the prior way we used to do work sessions were Wednesday before the board meetings, and then we would get back in the office on Thursday and have one day to make changes or completions or anything that we could get done, including if we needed to have legal opinions or any other professional opinion, and then the agendas had to go out on Friday. To me, that's not enough turnaround time, and it's also not enough time for the board if we had to have additional interaction or clarification or additional information provided.